and welcome back to the One United podcast. I'm joined as ever by Henry. Henry, how you doing?
Yes, mate, I'm good. You?
Yeah, I'm good. And we're joined today by a special guest, joined by Alex. Alex is a big Newcastle fan, so how you doing, mate?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So we'll get on to our first order of business. There we go. So, a big game for both clubs coming up. Newcastle United versus Manchester United will be I believe, one of the first games to be pay-per-view. So, Alex, just come straight to you as a Newcastle fan. What are you expecting from the game on Saturday?
You guys are obviously coming off a really not hot start to the season in an ownership form. We are. We're currently mid-table with 7 points, and roughly really off the bounce of that Burnley result where we just destroyed them. They didn't have really a lot of efforts or attempts. They look really poor, and I think they'll be in trouble this season. I would really like a draw. I'd be happy with a draw tomorrow, but something tells me that we could be expecting some fireworks at St James's Park.
Yeah, I think fireworks is the big word. A team such as Newcastle, Alan St-Maximin's really hit the ground running. The Callum Wilson as well. It's a very quick attacking team now that you've got, very exciting, and we've got big Harry Maguire in defence to stop him. So Henry, I'll come to you then.
Mm-hmm.
What are you sort of expecting from the game?
Absolutely nothing. That's just honest take on the game. If last week's anything to go by without defending, then it could be a long night. Could be a really long night. And I'm sort of, I'll find a way to watch the game, but I don't really want to watch it to a degree because I know it could be a painful night at the office unless we start a good team. So yeah, it's one of those that could go either way, but I don't have particularly high hopes, especially considering the start Newcastle made to this season. They look a real threat, not just to United but to many other teams as well.
It's going to be really interesting because you guys set up in such a counter. When I say you guys, I'm obviously talking about Man United. They're set up in such a counter-attacking style of football, and that's what Newcastle are built for.
Yeah.
Is this counter? We soak up all the pressure and then hit you on the wings with Alan St-Maximin, Ryan Fraser, Miguel Almiron and Callum Wilson up top, and just have John Joe Shelby pinging balls left, right and centre to everybody. And that's what we are, but you guys are essentially the same team.
Yeah, we're not good at building pressure. That's one thing that we struggle against a low block team, which I think what will happen is we'll dominate possession. We'll try to, as we usually try to against the lower clubs to a degree. And you'll soak it up, counter-attack, and I really hope after yesterday Maguire's given some time off because his head's not right, and if he gets taken apart in this game, I think his career will take a big hit if that happens.
Yeah, possibly. I think just going back a step, it says a lot about the start we both had and sort of the position United are in now as a club, really.
Yeah.
Without sort of sounding like an overreaction, if we beat Newcastle on Saturday, we still won't go above them in the table. We'll still be behind them. They're not a catchable distance. So we're 3 games into the season, and we're 4 points behind you.
We have got a game in hand.
16th in the league.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's already a must-win game against a side that we, as fans, we put ourselves so much higher above Newcastle in terms of sort of standard, and now, we're looking up at you,
competing for the same places.
Almost. Like you say, it's the same team, but Steve Bruce is getting better, getting more out of the players than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Is it just, what is going on? That's an interesting point then, Alex. You've gone obviously from Rafa Benitez to Steve Bruce, and you started the season very well. You've had a couple of good moments last season as well. So how has he sort of made that transition as smooth as possible, as smooth as he has, and how are you doing so well?
Well, when he first got appointed, it was so negative. The reaction was nothing. And comparing it to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, when he first got appointed, everyone was like, "All right, he's one of us. We'll do this." And that's what Steve Bruce should have been. It should have been, he's one of us. We'll rally around him because he's a Geordie lad. He's a Newcastle fan and everything like that. We should have rallied around him. Instead, it was seen as he's the biggest yes man to Ashley, to Lee Charney, to the administration that we despise so much. So what he's had to start with was nothing. The expectation was nothing. And with us not getting relegated, with us having a fiery, new, inspiring attacking player, and as Alan St-Maximin, Miguel Almiron, and yes, Joe Linton flopped, but it was still nice to spend some money. And then that raised the bar, and then us playing good football and having some good results last season, including the result against you guys. We beat Chelsea as well, we drew with Everton. We had some really good results throughout the season, and then that just kept building and building and building. He's still not seen as the guy, and when the takeover saga happened in the summer, the bet was that he wouldn't make it till July if the takeover got sorted, and it would be Allegri, Pochettino, Mourinho. There would be all these names under the sun that got appointed to Newcastle United manager. So he is the stopgap of progress. But if you look at Bruce's history in terms of a manager, he always has a good second season. When he was with Sunderland, they finished 14th when he was there with that season. That squad was a championship squad. And you saw that when they went in the third season and eventually got relegated. But you had this third season that we will have next season with him is where it truly will see. This season is always going to go well because he gets players on side to kind of see what's going on.
Yeah, he comes across to me as sort of what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer sets himself out as. He seems like a very good man manager who, like you say, he'll rally the troops. He'll get players playing for him. Now, we know Ole's not tactically sort of all there at all. He is seen as he excels in man management, but now we're getting reports that he's even lost faith with Fernandes, who seems like.
Well, those reports they're very unfounded from what has been said. Fernandes came out and said yesterday that it's completely untrue. In an interview after Portugal game, those reports were. I don't know how you describe it. They were kind of sort of made up.
Fabricated.
Yeah, Duncan Castles has a very good relationship with Mourinho, notoriously. And it's just not true. So there might have been some words in the change room at half time, but that's sort of normal when you're getting pummeled by Spurs at home. But when it comes to actually falling out with a manager, it takes a lot more than that to do it.
Well, going back anyway then, so Ole's sort of set himself out as this big man manager. He's got nice little nicknames for all the players. He's dead pally with everyone, and yet these aren't players that are playing for him anymore. We saw that against Spurs. It sort of feels like a similar type of thing to where they threw Mourinho under the bus.
Yep.
So it's just, you not find that a bit damning, Henry?
Yeah, I said it after the game. There was a very reactionary kind of way of doing things, the way that I put it out, and that it's just that the players weren't trying, and there's an element of that. There's an element of when you're on the floor already and you're being kicked even more, especially when you're losing to Spurs, your heads will go down. That's what happens, especially considering the start of the season that we've had. But yeah, there was certainly an element of the players just, as players of Manchester United, we dream of being in that situation when we're younger. Everyone dreams of being in that situation. And when you see someone not running or someone not making the effort, you're in a privileged position, whether you're on the bench or whether you're in the starting 11. So you put the effort in. And if you don't, and if you're just clearly looking at the money, then you are not fit for the club. You're just not ready. You're not, if at the end of the day, regardless of the manager, you should try 100% to get everything out of yourself that you can in the game and everything out of the players around you. And that game was just a complete mess. Everything I saw, I didn't see one positive in that game. It was all negative, and it was just a disaster, really.
Sorry, can I just pose a question to the pair of you then? So, as you said there, they threw Mourinho under the bus, a manager that has historically made sure that he has respect, and commands it and demands it from his players. And then they're doing exactly the same with Solskjaer, who they chose. The players were the ones that went to Edward Ward on the board and said, we want this man as our manager. We're the one that we're going to look after him. He's our guy. Isn't that a deeper problem with the players at Manchester United?
Absolutely, yeah. I think there's reports coming out as well that there's a lot of little cliques in the United dressing room, and there was under Mourinho and there is again. So if you've not got a unified dressing room, it's almost impossible to get everyone on board. If you've got loads of different little cliques who all think slightly differently, it doesn't seem like there's any unity in the dressing room from what we're hearing. It's just a lot of little groups who agree with each other, and everyone else to them is outsiders. So if you've got those groups, they're not unified. So how is the manager then meant to, implement one sort of strategy, one ideology? There we go. One ideology over everyone, the same ideology, because you're not going to get everyone to agree, are you? So it is a fundamental problem with these players where if they're not unified themselves, how do they expect a manager to get anything out of them as a team? Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
I don't know how you feel about it, Henry.
Well, I think that you can be a man manager but not a good team manager. And when it comes to Solskjaer, everyone seems to say good things about him, all the players do. But whether collectively as a group they believe that as a whole that he's a tactically sound manager, and you can be good with individual players. That does not mean that you're good with the whole team. And talking to people as a collective, it does not mean that. It means that you're good at talking to one person at a time and being, close with different people and whatever. So I think at the moment, part of that is that I think he's lost the dressing room. I really do. There is no other way that... And the worry for me is I don't think he has the managerial respect, but he has the respect of what he's done for the club before. But if someone that is classed as a legend at the club can't get anything out of these players, and they're going to throw him under the bus, which they're essentially doing at the moment with the performances, then what are other managers going to be able to do? Because he's respected so much at the club, Solskjaer, but I guess Mourinho couldn't do it. One of the best managers ever, I'd say, couldn't do it. And Louis van Gaal, another one. People said he was past it, whatever. He was fantastic when he was at Barcelona. He brought through your Messis, your Xavis, your Iniestas. He was bringing them up and nurturing them when they were younger, and kind of, I wouldn't say made them who they are, but close to that. And they threw him under the bus as well. The performances were poor. There was a lack of quality. So it seems at the moment that any manager that goes into that situation at the club is damned before they even get in the position. The only person that I think can turn that around at the moment is Poch, because he managed to get so many people on side at 2 different Premier League clubs. And maybe a bit of tactical nous and putting fear back into teams when they come into Old Trafford. I think that needs to happen again, because no one is scared to play at Old Trafford after last week. No one. Everyone will look at us as a weak side when they go to play us away.
Well, that sort of brings me sort of nicely to the next point I was going to make. Just sort of from a neutral fan point of view, Alex, what do you actually think about the sort of state of United at the minute, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? Is it a team that you still fear like you used to, or are we just sort of we're not as big as we as fans think we are anymore? And then just sort of building on that, your opinions on Solskjaer in general. We've been talking about him. Do you think he's good enough?
No. To all of your answers there, no, you're not as big as you used to be as a club. You were the biggest football club in the world at points when I was growing up, especially through the Sir Alex Ferguson era. We used to dread playing Manchester United. It used to be, this is going to be a long day, this is going to be a long weekend, and I'm going to get a load of stick from all my mates in the pub or at school or at college or at university, and it's going to be really, really rough, because we always got spanked. Wayne Rooney always scored against us. Paul Scholes always scored against us. Ruud van Nistelrooy always scored against us. We hated playing Man United because Wayne Rooney scored a worldie every time we did. And it wasn't great. Now, I look at Man United and I go, maybe we can nick a point. We're a little bit of a bogey team for these lot. A little bit. But every time I feel that, there are still games where we get kicked in the teeth because of a Man United comeback. I think 2 seasons ago, half time, Yoshori Muto scored 2 goals in 10 minutes. You were 2-0 down at Old Trafford. Paul Pogba comes on the second half after a thigh injury. quarterbacks the game, you win 3-2. Alexis Sanchez scoring a 90th minute header. The only thing he did in a Manchester United shirt, arguably.
Yeah.
And there is that feeling, as you said, and as we've said before, we've had a result last season against you, and it was at St James's where Matty Longstaff's got a long range bolter, and it was a great night. It was a great night for everybody. Great night for the young kid, putting him on the spotlight and making sure of that. But then we went to Old Trafford, and Mason Greenwood absolutely tore us apart and destroyed us, and it was there. So yes, we are still scared of Manchester United, as we should be scared of all the big six clubs, because our record and Steve Bruce's record against the big six is horrible. Steve Bruce has only won one game in the 18 he's played against Manchester United in his managerial career, and that one game was at Newcastle last season. So, yes, we are, and yes, you are smaller than fans think you are. Your Manchester United fans think you should be the third biggest club in the country at this present moment, because of Manchester City and Liverpool, two of your biggest rivals, which obviously takes a bitter pill to swallow already.
But is that wrong? I think we should be there because of the amount of money the club makes and the size of the fan base as well. I think that we should be higher than both of those as a club. That's where we were. So why shouldn't we feel that we not have the right, but why shouldn't we feel that we should be in that position again?
Investment.
Yeah, exactly.
You said you have invested money, and you've done it really quite okay and smartly. You spent £120 million last summer improving a defence that is now statistically the 18th worst defence in the Premier League. You then spent however much on Bruno Fernandes, which was one of the smartest bits of business anybody's done, and will go down as historically one of the greatest January signings ever, because the impact he made from January right the way through to summer, even when football got restarted, Project Restart, he was on fire, and was one of my players of the season. Even though he came in January, he was incredible, and he doesn't seem to have picked up that same level of impact week in, week out. Going to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I feel for him in so many ways, but I also feel like his time should have been up in the summer. Like, I feel like people should have said a really thank you for your job, but we really need to take this club forward, and to do that we can't, and we don't feel like we can do that with you. You will always be remembered here and always thanked for it, and fans would have accepted that week in, week out. The days that you guys have had with Ole, the miracle in Paris, is still one of the best days in your recent history. But the 2 wins against Manchester City last season, sweet victory they were, for around about 8 weeks until Watford dismantled them. You were the only team that took points off Liverpool, and that was the best Liverpool side to probably grace the Premier League that we've seen in a very long time. So there are signs that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer knows what he's doing, because in big games he tactically gets it right. But like 2 weeks ago that's the worst Man United side I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's sort of like at the end of Arsene Wenger's reign, where you feel like he should have he resigned 2 years too late, where it got to a point where fans actually turned on him despite everything he'd done. And I think it would get to a point there with United where Ole's sort of status as an icon, and even what he's done as a manager, because he like you say, he has done brilliant things as a manager already for United, but I think we're not in that period yet. But the longer this goes on, and the longer he stays, and the longer the board choose to keep him on, like if it goes as it is, his reputation as a player, as a manager at this club will be in tatters.
And so I said last week that if he doesn't win 4 out of the next 6 games, I think 3 probably out of the next 6, I think he's done. If we lose to Leipzig and PSG, and it's looking like we're not going to get Champions League, that's the stage when the owners think, oh, hang on a minute, we can't stick with this manager because he's not going to get our Champions League money for us. So that's the stage where I think we'll ship him out now and start new. He's going to get a big payout. We all know that, because we always sign managers to ridiculous contracts. Although talking about Alan Pardew's a lifetime contract pretty much at Newcastle. But yeah, when it comes down to it, it was a naive decision to keep him on, and I wouldn't say it's there yet, as you just said, James, but his reputation and status is under threat at the moment. It really is, and I don't want him to go down. He'll always go down as the guy that scored the goal to win us the treble, essentially. But I don't want him to go down as a failure at the club, where we cherish him so much, and we still will, but he'll be known for the next 10 years for all the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm. Which is a black mark against his name.
Yeah, which is a real concern. I think for him personally. It will damage his pride, and he will not get a better job than this. He's not a good enough manager. He might get a, championship job or something like that, but nothing as big as this. But yeah, it's a concern for me, and I think that the board, although they're naive and stupid when it comes to transfer business, they're not stupid enough to throw away a load of a wad of cash which they can get in their banks at the end of the year. They're not stupid enough to throw that away. So I think that it's only a matter of time now, probably.
Yeah. Well, bringing it back to the game then. So we've obviously sort of got a bit sidetracked. So I'll bring it to you, Alex. So there's obviously big news that Saint-Maximin has improved his contract. So just talk us through your thoughts on that, and then how do you think he can really hurt this United side at present?
Obviously, it's a 6-year deal. I extended it from now all the way through to 2026, improving what he already had, which was 2 years left on his current deal, and they've ripped that up and given him an extended wage, and obviously the 6 years. The wage hasn't been released yet, but it's rumoured to be in around about the £80,000 a week milestone, which would put him as the second highest paid player at the club, behind Jamal Lascelles, who's on 85 a week and is the club captain. But he deserves it. He has been one of the more dynamic players in the Premier League already this season, and towards the end of last season, whenever he's on the pitch, he draws eyes to him. We love a tricky French winger at Newcastle. We do. We really do. It goes to Ginola, Remy Cabella, Florian Thauvin, Hatem Ben Arfa, and then obviously Alan Saint-Maximin. There's Laurent Robert's in there as well. I can't believe I forgot Robert. But you look at him and you just see endless potential. If he can get 7 assists, 8 goals this season, that's it. How he can hurt this Manchester United team, well, you're not very quick defensively in any way, shape or form.
That's one way to put it, yeah.
You're really not. You're not very fast defensively, especially Luke Shaw, or Brandon Williams, whichever Ollie decides to play.
Alex Telles.
Or Alex Telles. If Alex Telles decides to play, that would be a really good battle. And I'd really, really love to see that, because he is one of the premier defensive fullback options in the world, is Alex Telles. I think he won't play this week when Alex Telles. I think he'll be on the bench and Shaw will start. But again, you lads might know more than me about that. But if he does start Luke Shaw, you lot should be really worried.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm assuming you're expecting him to play out on the right then?
Yes.
Saint-Maximin, that's fair enough, yes. So the next thing we want to talk about, obviously, is the other side, the other winger, Ryan Fraser. Now, I'll give you a similar sort of question in that, I'll start off by saying, how do you think, as a Newcastle fan, how do you think he dealt with the whole Bournemouth situation last season? And then, how following on from that, how do you think he can then hurt United down that left-hand side?
I feel like he dealt with the Bournemouth situation poorly. I don't know what his camp said to him, his internal camp, not the Bournemouth camp. I don't know what they said and what they suggested. It was obvious he was going to leave on a free transfer. He didn't want to sign a new contract. The Arsenal deal had fallen through because they'd got links with other players, and their youth team suddenly decided to be really good again in Bakayoko Saka. Reece Nelson decided to step up as well. So, and obviously Martinelli, who got injured towards the end of last season. So they have a really good team. They do. They have a really good team to Arsenal, so they don't need him. So the fact we were able to grab him is incredible, especially with the link up with Callum Wilson he has. He's now finding full fitness and obviously got a goal for Scotland there. Yes, he dealt with it really poorly, and he should be ashamed of himself that he didn't go on with a club that gave him his shot and gave him his opportunity and follow that through, and possibly could have stopped them getting relegated.
Yeah.
Possibly. We don't know that, obviously. That's if and buts. They were poor, and they'd lost Eddie Howe's relationship there. Bournemouth kind of like what they're doing with Man United and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But he can really hurt you because you really don't know what he's going to do. He's not an out-and-out tricky winger like Alan Saint-Maximin. He can drop deeper and play through the centre as well as out wide. So if Hendrick decides to play as well, Jeff Hendrick, you can also have that interchangeable nature of it. He can play on either the left or the right. So if Saint-Maximin's having trouble against Tellez, you just put a Scottish Bulldog up against him and say, welcome to the Premier League, really, and just bully him left, right and centre and go that proper gritty route, which he is able to do. And of course he's got that killer ball. He really does. And you put that ball in the air, and if Harry Maguire's not playing because he needs that mental rest, then I don't really think you've got a lot of aerial prowess in that team. Eric Bailly's soft on in a header.
Injured.
He's injured, so he won't be playing. Lindelof, it's Lindelof.
Yeah.
He's not exactly the greatest person in the world. And then who's next? Phil Jones.
I think
Mendy.
Well, Twanzebe's back, isn't he?
Yeah, but I don't think. I think throwing him straight in there would be a bit of an ask, especially considering he's not anywhere near match fit.
Oh, I bet you forgot that Marcus Rojo's still at the club as well.
He won't play.
So
he'll probably break someone's leg if he plays.
Yeah, the thing that worries me with Wilson is he's obviously very quick, but he's coming up against the best defensive fullback in the league, arguably the world, in Wan-Bissaka. So defensively, you don't beat him. But what Wan-Bissaka likes to do is let's force people down the outside, so he can then get his long leg around and tackle him. Whereas Fraser, I believe he's right-footed, isn't he?
Yes.
So he's going to want to cut inside all the time.
Yep.
And Wan-Bissaka is that uncoordinated and gangly, and he has no control over his body at all unless he's going to ground and tackling after a throw-in. So if Ryan Fraser cuts inside him, I don't think Wan-Bissaka can physically move his left leg in a way to stop him. So that's what's really worrying me.
The swinger.
As soon as you beat Wan-Bissaka, he's the best defender that we have. He's the best at dispossessing a player. So if you get past Wan-Bissaka, you've got a free run at a defence that is very shaky at the best of times. I'll come to you then, Henry, just to go back to what he was saying about the Bournemouth situation. We spoke about it a little bit before, but what are your sort of opinions on the way that was dealt with?
Well, yeah, Ryan Fraser's a bit of a dick, really, isn't he? Just to put it lightly. Which it is true, because it shows a lack of professionalism for me. It really does. And it shows... I know he wanted to move and whatever, and that's absolutely fine. And but he's put himself ahead of the club that gave him the opportunity in the first place. And I just think that's awful. I really do. It's the most Scottish thing you could possibly do.
Jesus.
So, it's, it is a disgraceful thing to do, and I know he took it on the chin from a lot of people that he was doing the wrong thing, but rightfully so. I think he deserved, I wouldn't say abuse, but I think he deserved heavy criticism for what he did, and you don't throw your own team under the bus, especially when you're one of the best players in that team, which he was. He's one of the biggest threats when it comes to going forward, even defensively, in that kind of, I'd say, season before last, when he had a really good season. Defensively, he was kind of tracking back and making the effort. In terms of that, kind of sheer frustration, I assume, from the Bournemouth fans, they'll never forgive him for that, and rightfully so. And it's just a bit of a knob, really, and he hasn't helped his cause.
See, my opinion on him is, on a personal level, like professional level, I completely understand why he did what he did. He knew he was on the way out. He knew he wasn't going to be there next season, regardless of whether Bournemouth stayed up or not. So if in those last 10 games he gets a career-threatening injury, his move's done. His career's over for no sort of reason. He was protecting himself, which is why I can understand it. But yeah, my problem comes in when you give the greater context of it. Bournemouth were in a relegation battle. The consequences of going down. Both financially, especially in these times as well. That Bournemouth team is now in real danger of spiralling because of the financial impact of COVID. They were one of the poorest teams in the Premier League last season anyway. So to strip finances away from him even further is going to be catastrophic for them as a club. So the fact that Fraser didn't help them out on that point is, I can see why it's frustrating.
But no one else did it. That's what annoys me. At the club, no one else did that. Just him. Callum Wilson got his dream move. Well, it's a dream move, but he got his move to the Premier League where he wanted to be. And Ryan Fraser threw his team under the bus.
There was no one else in Fraser's position.
No, but but Callum Wilson could have done that. He could have said, "Oh, hold on a minute, I don't want to be a part of this because I want to get a move and I don't want to get an injury."
But I think the difference is,
but he didn't.
Ryan Fraser knew he wanted to leave. He didn't want to be in that team anymore. Whereas Callum Wilson, if Bournemouth would have stayed up, there's no doubt Callum Wilson would have stayed. He's only moved. You can tell he loves that club. He's only moved because he's not a Championship player, and Bournemouth need the money from him. They need to get him off the wage books. They need, what was it, the £15 million transfer fee you paid for him. So him leaving has helped Bournemouth in a way financially, but make no mistake, if Bournemouth was still in the Premier League, Callum Wilson wouldn't be a Newcastle player.
That's 100% true.
No, I can see the personal side of it, because at the end of the day, you know, he's putting himself in front of everyone else, which is fine. Very selfish, but fine.
That's what you have to be if you're a professional footballer.
Yeah.
You look at, there's Man United players that have done this. Alexis Sanchez, Paul Pogba, Wayne Rooney's done it. Marcus Rashford's done it.
Yeah, but that does not mean it's morally right.
No, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that there are examples of this.
Yeah, I know why people do it. I'm not, I haven't got my head in the sand. I know why people would do that and put themselves in front of the club. But the point I'm making is, although he was going to get his move anyway, which he would have got his move anyway, he still could have helped that club.
What if he got a big injury and then his move fell through?
If he did an ACL, he wouldn't have come to Newcastle.
Yeah, well, it's all ifs and buts. At the moment, this house could blow up. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna be wrapped in bubble wrap the whole time, does it?
Yeah, right.
It's all ifs and buts. There's like a 2% chance, and yes, it could happen, but he could have potentially saved Bournemouth a hell of a lot of hassle when it comes to. I'm not saying he would have, but didn't Villa stay up by a point last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that extra point that he could have helped them get, or 2 points or whatever that he could have helped them get, and he sat on his arse in his house doing nothing, and was happy just to let them collapse and fold. It was all ifs and buts. It wasn't. We're putting it in context as though he was gonna get a career-ending injury, which the likelihood is he probably wouldn't have got that injury. And as I said, it's all ifs and buts. I could cross the road tomorrow and get smashed up by a truck. It doesn't mean that I have to protect myself from it. I'm not going to sit in my room and cower away from it. He's going onto a football pitch. He gets kicked all the time. He's probably used to it by now. And they are taught how to avoid challenges that are crap challenges like that. They're taught how to avoid them in academies. That's why they keep their feet off the ground when they get challenged and stuff like that. So as far as it goes morally, he's really messed up there, and he's made a bit of a tit of himself. So, but yeah, I just think it's a bit. I think it's just wrong what he did, and I can't agree with it. I just can't. Whether it's any player, not just him.
Fair enough. I think one final point I'll add before we move on is the argument of he's thrown this club under the bus that have helped raise him, but you could say he was. Him and Wilson were comfortably their best players. I don't think that's too controversial to say.
No, I'd say that, yeah.
So, I think Ryan Fraser, he was there with them in the Championship, wasn't he? I'm not wrong in saying that. He was a big part in getting them to the Premier League in the first place.
Yeah.
So, in essence, yes, they've made him as a player, but he's helped make them as a club. Before Ryan Wilson, Bournemouth were, they'd never been in the Premier League before. They were a very small Championship club, very limited resources. He helps them get that promotion, that big burst of money. They're now a big club. He helped keep them in the top 10 for at least 2 seasons.
There were three Newcastle United players now that helped Bournemouth be a Premier League club and be who they are. There is Ryan Fraser, Callum Wilson, and Matt Ritchie.
Yeah.
So they're all now Newcastle United players.
So the argument stands that yes, they made him as a player, but he gave as good as he got. I get he got a lot of support building himself as a player, but he gave Bournemouth his time as a player and built them as a club.
But I know he was his last season, by the way, was awful. He was just awful.
Yeah.
Before the Project Restart stuff, obviously he just didn't get involved in any of it because his contract was up. But in that last season, he was poor, and he looked like he didn't want to be there. He wasn't trying. From what I saw, it looked like, and we've seen him the season before have a fantastic season and look like he could be I wouldn't say a world beater, but certainly close to that level at times. Being linked with your Arsenals and even Spurs at one point were linked with him as well. So when it comes to that, he was fantastic, but he looked like he wasn't trying. And the club, it is just saying to the club, sod you lot, I'm not going to try, even though because I want my move, I'm not going to try. And I think he has put a tarnish on his reputation, and no one will look at him the same way, regardless of how well he does for Newcastle. As a person and what he did at Bournemouth, no one will look at him the same way, because they'll think, especially Bournemouth fans, I genuinely feel sorry for them, because they've just lost one of their best players, and they've just got relegated, and the COVID impact is going to be huge.
But as a Newcastle United fan, I couldn't give a damn.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I couldn't give a damn.
If
If he scores goals and provides work assists for us and keeps us in the Premier League and does well for us, I couldn't give a damn what happened to Bournemouth. I couldn't. We're a fresh start club.
Yeah.
You come here for a fresh start. What happens here happens here. What happens previous doesn't matter.
Well, fair enough. Well,
Yeah,
the last sort of Newcastle player we had in the spotlight was Miggy Almiron. I believe he's definitely up there. If he's not your club record signing, he's definitely one of the most expensive signings you've ever made.
Joe Linton your club record signing?
Joe Linton is our club record signing. He's our second highest signing when we bought him from Atlanta in the MLS. Miguel Almiron's amazing. I adore him. He is the Santiago Munez of real life. He really is. He's brilliant. The story of him getting to the MLS and then coming to Newcastle is amazing. Obviously, he's from South America and was brought up in nothing but poverty, and the only thing that kept his family going was him playing football, and he's now made it to the big time. The joke amongst Tyneside and amongst Magpie fans is that you never see Miguel Almiron angry or upset or sad. He is the only person that ever has a smile on his face ever, and it's the cheekiest grin in the world. He's 26 years old. He looks like he's about 10.
Right.
He really does. He's amazing.
Yeah, that's fair.
The only problem with Miguel Almiron, in my opinion, is his end product. Like, his end product isn't the best in any way, shape or form.
My thing with him is I think you picked the wrong one. Joseph Martinez or Miguel Almiron, and at the time
We picked the wrong one, yeah.
Martinez was it was those two, the dynamic duo. You could have potentially brought them both in, and that would have been fantastic. But Martinez is probably a better player, and that's not to knock Almiron. When he came in, I was like, okay, right, that's a statement signing, because a lot of top clubs were looking at him. But yeah, maybe you did take the wrong one.
His work rate is second to none though. Like, he runs himself into the ground every single thing. Against Brighton, we lost 3-0. He ran 15 kilometres.
Yeah.
That's up there with anybody. You're looking at Ronaldo or Messi and everything like that. When they were in their primes, they weren't running 15 Ks. His work rate is second to none. He will do anything for the team, defensively, offensively, whatever. There was a challenge in Paraguay where he played international and he was on the edge of the 18-yard area, and he played a through ball, and the defender went right through him with his elbow up and into his face. Not even a yellow card, because South American football, and they're a little bit harder than we are here. He gets up and pats his play, doesn't ask for treatment or anything like that. Gets up, pats the striker on the back because he's just missed an absolute sitter. That's the only thing that he did. Didn't care about himself there. He's a team player.
Yeah.
And that's why we all love Miguel Almiron.
See, I completely get what you're saying. I think as a neutral, I completely love Almiron. I think the fact that he's got that cheeky grin, that perfectly spherical head that he's got as well, with the buzz cut, he's just to look at. He's very. He just raises your mood straight away, and then, like you say, it's just that end product with him. He's statistically, in basically every area, he's exceptional apart from his actual output in goals and assists. That end product comes back to bite him when you look at his actual goal contributions, but everything else on the board, he's a great dribbler. He's very creative. He's got a great eye for a pass. He's a hard worker. He's not quite got that physicality, but I don't think he needs it. He's got the speed and the agility to make up for it, especially with the position he plays. So he's just one of those players that that he should be feared by everyone, but that end product is just something that really sort of hampers him in a way. So you worry when he's on the ball, but when you see what he then does with the ball, you fear sort of go away. He's like Adama Traore was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He can hurt you, but there's a strong chance he won't.
Yeah.
But, you get those 1 in 5 times where he does something just simply incredible and it carves your team apart, and that's it. You're losing 1-0 to Newcastle again. But yeah, we'll sort of move on then. Henry, this is more sort of our area of expertise now. Newcastle is the big opportunity we've got to turn this season around, because it's already going in a very, very downward spiral. So, given that we've got these new signings in, Cavani obviously can't play, he's still quarantined, but with these new additions, the team's set at least until January. How do we turn this around, starting against Newcastle?
Well, the fact that we're saying that we have to turn our season around by beating Newcastle, no offence, is quite worrying for us as a club. The fact that we're reliant on beating a team that, and it's not just to a stage where we could do the win, it's a stage where we must win this game. Simple as that. And if it doesn't happen, then anything over 3-1 to Newcastle and Solskjaer is getting a taxi back to Norway. Seriously, no, I think that's the case. Because the owners won't look at that and think, oh yeah, this guy can definitely beat Man City and Liverpool and whatever, if we can't beat Newcastle. So it's a must-win game for us. I wouldn't say it is for you guys, Alex. At the end of the day, you probably should be looking at 3 points in this game because of how poor we've been, but you take a point, as you said.
Yeah, 100%. We're not looking for, if we get 3 points, we'll just beat Man United. We're sitting on 10 points after 5 games of the season. That's absolutely brilliant. We're not getting relegated. We're not going to finish in the top half either. We're not going to push for Europe because there's 8 better teams than us in this league. So, yeah, I said at the beginning of the season to many people that asked us, what would you take it from this season? I'd take a boring 13th with nothing happening as a Newcastle United fan. I really would. Just a couple of big games like a win against Man United at home, or a victory against Chelsea, or a draw against Liverpool or City. That's it. And then beating teams you're supposed to beat like Burnley, and occasionally losing to like someone like West Ham or Brighton, as we have done this season so far. So for you guys to turn your season around, beating us is step one.
Absolutely.
Worrying thing for me, is that's the level at the moment.
Yeah,
that is the level we're looking at.
Watching Newcastle against Burnley, they played some football that we haven't seen at United for at least 6 months. Well, like before that poor period of the project restart, towards the end where everything sort of fell apart. Even in that purple patch that we had where we were like 14 games unbeaten, we didn't see some of the football that these Newcastle players were playing, and that's really horrifying. But we'll move on then, because we are getting on a bit in time. So quick predicted lineup from you, Alex.
I think Cardallo starting goal as he has done all season. Martin Dubravka still isn't 100% fit, and Darlow hasn't really done anything to lose his place. Javi Manquillo, Jamal Lascelles, Federico Fernandez and Jamal Lewis will be our back four. We'll probably play John Joe Shelby and Isaac Hayden. And I would like to see Ryan Fraser and Alan Saint-Maximin start out wide, with Joe Linton playing off Callum Wilson. But I think we will have Callum Wilson up as one. We'll have Isaac Hayden drop into the centre of defence, and we'll have Jeff Hendrick play in midfield. I think that's what Steve Bruce will probably do. We'll go a 5-back formation, as he can do, and I hate him doing, but that's probably what we will do.
Fair enough. Henry, predicted lineup for United?
De Gea, obviously, in goal. Right back is going to be Wan-Bissaka. I think Maguire will start. Don't want him to, but I think he'll start. I think it'll be him and Lindelof, because obviously Bailly's injured. It's a bit of a push to put Tuanzebe in there, and Mengi's not ready yet, I don't think, unless he wants to thrust him in there. Left back, I think, will be Luke Shaw, and that's purely because of lack of game time for Alex Telles, and lack of training at the club. So And then the midfield will be probably the same as it's always been. Pogba, Matic, Fernandes. Then obviously Martial's out, so Greenwood will start up front. Rashford on the left. Dan James on the right.
See, it's not whether I don't think this will be the lineup, but the lineup I want to see is they'll put De Gea in goal. I think that's undoubted. I want to see him play either a back 3 or 5.
Yeah.
Just given the circumstances, there's no Martial, so you just have to sort of hear me out here.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Wan-Bissaka right wing back. I think Lindelof and Maguire will start. Luke Shaw is that third centre back because he does a good job there. He has in the past. Tellez left wing back because I don't think he has the defensive capabilities to just play as a left back, especially next to Maguire. Your 2 centre midfielders, you can have Pogba and Van der Beek because you've got the cover of that third centre back in that middle, so you don't need a defensive one. Fernandes sitting in that hole, and then Rashford and Greenwood up top.
I'd say that's fair. No, I'd say that's fair. And
that's the lineup I want to see.
I think genuinely, I think it'll go one of those 2 ways, and I can't see it. He might go 5 at the back purely because he's panicking about this defence, and I think you might be right there. Or he'll stick to what he would describe as a tried and trusted system that we just lost 6-1 with. So, so I think I'd say that's fair, and I'd say it's 50-50 at the moment as to which one he's going to go with. But Van der Beek starting, I hope it happens, but can I see it happening? I don't know what's wrong with Solskjaer when it comes to that. He should be starting Van der Beek every game because he's more. He can play as an 8. He's even played as a 6 for Ajax and the Netherlands as well. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think if Van der Beek doesn't start, there's going to be big problems even in that dressing room. But quick fire, score prediction. Alex, go.
2-2.
2-2. Henry?
I said this before the Brighton game. The only way we're going to win is if we get a scrappy penalty. I think it will be 1-1, maybe 2-1 to us with a scrappy late penalty.
See, I'm gonna go optimistic and say we're going to win 2-1. There's not going to be a clean sheet in there, no chance. But yeah, so that's that segment done. We'll sort of segue and then let's keep on the Newcastle versus United versus Man United topic, and we'll sort of pit owners against each other because I think it's pretty well known that we have 2 of the worst owners in the league.
Who's
worst? I'll be sort of a moderator for this, and I'll pit you 2 against each other, and you've got to tell us. Alex will go first. Why is Mike Ashley the worst owner in the Premier League?
He owns a literal slave shop in Sports Direct that still operates 0-hour contracts, even though they're illegal. The amount of money that the Mike Ashley Group has made over the past 2 years goes upwards of 125 to 200 million pounds, and the amount of investment Newcastle United have had from Mike Ashley over the last 2 years is £0. The money that Newcastle United have invested in the transfer market over the last 2 years is from club profits. The training facilities that Newcastle United have are 15 years old. We had to go to York, which are a National League side, for pre-season, as they have better training facilities than we do. We had to go to York, which is down the road and COVID obviously, but they have better training facilities than Newcastle United do. He is very controlling of what he wants as the club. Says he wants to sell the club, and was very, very close to selling the club to possibly the worst owners in the history of football, which would have been a Saudi Arabia group that physically have killed people for being homosexual and killed journalists like ourselves for speaking out against them. And these are the kind of people that he does business with. That's why he's the worst owner in the Premier League.
Fair enough. Henry, why are the Glazers the worst owners in the Premier League?
Right. The big difference is here. Mike Ashley puts money into the club. The Glazers take money out.
Well, I've just said he doesn't.
Well,
they're all profits the club has earned through TV revenue and through actual profits.
According to Kieran Maguire, I believe in the podcast we spoke to last week, he said that Mike Ashley overall has put over £100 million into Newcastle.
That's through his for his tenure of 10 years, yes. And that was to pay off debts that Newcastle United had when he first bought them.
Okay, and the Glazers have taken out, we're now in £500 million of debt, and the Glazers have taken out just under £1 billion. So they've taken out 85 million in dividends over the last 8 years. So as far as running clubs goes, I'm not saying Newcastle are run well, because they're not. But as far as running the actual club goes, our stadiums slowly getting more outdated. James will vouch for me on that one. I went there last year and it looks crap. It looks a bit of a mess, to be honest. And, you know, training facilities, yeah, fair enough. Training facilities are good. But when it comes to actually putting money into the club, they put none. They rely on just purely on revenue, and then whatever they can take, they take out the club. And our net spend this year, if Andres Pereira gets sold next year for, I don't know how we're going to get 27 million euros for him, but our net spend,
they do what they want.
Our net spend will be, I believe it's 36 million. Our net spend will be for a side that are supposedly pushing on from finishing third last year with a very average squad.
It's only 40 at the minute.
Yeah. No. Oh, sorry. It's 40 now, and it'll be down to like 20 or something, because obviously 25 million.
The madness thing is that you've just said like 500 million pounds, and you've just done this, but you couldn't scrape together 120 million pounds for Jadon Sancho.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's my point. That's why I would, you know, I know we're pitting against each other for who's got the worst owners, but that's why, in terms of revenue and what we actually make as a club, we should be in the top spenders every year, and you know, we've just been outspent by Aston Villa. So in terms of as far as owners go, yours, Mike Ashley, is terrible when it comes to human rights issues. I'm not going to disagree with that, but when it comes to actually running a football club, ours are pretty bad, and they could have spent that £800 million on you know, on improving facilities and improving the playing squad, which they didn't.
I think one point I'll add to the Mike Ashley argument as well is how badly he fumbled the Rafa Benitez situation. He had one of the best managers in the league, one of the best managers in the Premier League. He managed to convince him to join Newcastle in the Championship. But join them in the Premier League, stay with them in the Championship, I believe, got them back up, and you know, if in that situation, you do whatever Rafa Benitez wants to keep hold of him, and Mike Ashley didn't do anything he wanted at all, did he? He just fumbled the bag is a very adequate saying for what happened.
It's an adequate thing. You would have said to Rafa Benitez, right, okay, here is £50 million, which is what we spent during the summer that he left of Steve Bruce's first thing, and you would say to Rafa Benitez, here's £50 million, I want you to buy players of your design and your calibre that are 26 years and under that I can sell for a profit. And Rafa Benitez goes, okay, can I have one over 27-year-old player that's in his prime so I can build my team around it, full of youngsters, so that there's experience in the dressing room? And then you go, yes, Rafa, you do whatever you want, please, sir.
Yeah. Please
make us a better club. And then it happens, and then we finish 8th, and then we're the new Wolves.
Yeah.
Same can be said for Jose though. When in his last season, when we have, when it comes to the best managers, Rafa's up there. But when it comes to the trophy-winning managers, Jose Mourinho is one of the best ever.
Yeah.
And we know that, and he's proven at Spurs. You know, Daniel Levy is notorious for spending no money on that club, and this year he's just gone and brought in. Yes, they've got a buyback deal, Real Madrid bought in Reguilon, and paying half of Bale's wages, which is over 300 grand. So they're now spending a little bit of money because they got Mourinho in. They're potentially going to go in for Skriniar again, which will cost them upwards of 40 million euros. Yeah. And our owners didn't back Mourinho when he said he wanted a centre half, and lo and behold, he got sacked 6 months later.
Yeah,
because they said he wasn't good enough. So
another problem you've got as well with the way the Rafa situation is, when he left, that meant you missed out on Rondon as well, who was, you know. Yeah. I think it's pretty safe to say, post Shearer, he's been one of your best strikers.
Yeah,
that's set foot on St James's Park.
Yeah, he would be there with. He would be around about 4th. He would be 4th on that list.
Yeah.
Then about Papa Cisse, 1 and 2.
And he's now joined him
in China. Yeah. So you went from Rondon to Joelinton, which on paper would have been a very good move, but it's just not quite worked out. So it just, you know, the sort of ripple effects that's come from Rafa Benitez not signing has been I don't say catastrophic for your club, but it's not been good at all. But any further arguments to add
I
before?
was just going to say, as far as this year goes, in terms of transfers this year, I think you lot will be really happy with what you've done in the window.
Yeah.
Brought in Ryan Fraser, brought in Callum Wilson. Joel Linton will start to hit form maybe if he's got someone up there with him.
Yeah.
And Jeff Hendrick as well.
Yeah.
Managed to get him. So you're kind of looking onwards and upwards. Obviously, the St. Maximin deal is probably the best bit of business you've done in the summer. And the only business we've done is Tellez is a good player. We need a left back. We brought in a 33-year-old striker and centre mid who's currently playing back up to two other ones. So business wise, we've done worse in the transfer market than Newcastle this year.
The thing, and I'd flip side to that again. We spent £20 million and we got 4 players.
Yeah.
Four quality players.
I mean, 4 quality players if you're just going to stay in the Premier League and soak up the TV money and do that, which is exactly where Newcastle are until we get an owner that's going to splash cash into us and create us to be the next Everton, Manchester City and Wolves, which we would have had if the Premier League wasn't corrupt and awful and conspiracy theorists still left, right and centre.
When it comes to 2 of the signings, which is Wilson and Fraser, you've got 2 players that were being touted last year for Arsenal and Spurs top 6 clubs. So I'd say you've done pretty damn good business there. I would have taken Callum Wilson as backup striker.
Yeah.
100%.